Right, 22 minutes before we say sharp to you on this Monday morning. Now, government is considering amending the liquor bill, which could result in a ban on alcohol advertising from 6 a.m. in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. So absolutely no advertising between those hours. They're also considering raising the minimum drinking age from 18 to 21 years of age. This is in a bid to fight alcohol abuse. But what impact will these amendments have on an already struggling economy and broadcasters within the advertising industry? So joining us to talk more about these possible amendments of the liquor bill, we've got Ian Jacobsberg, who is a legal expert at Hogan Lovells. Good to have you. Thanks for coming in. So we were chatting a little bit now briefly off air, just saying, I mean, this has been in the pipeline for a very long time. I mean, I think we dated it back to about 2010 that the government have been wanting to go ahead with this.
Yes, I think it's part of the Health Minister's general program to cut down or to control different kinds of consumption that he's identified as either socially detrimental or detrimental to health.
Yeah.
We've seen the sugary the tax on sugary drinks come in this year. There, of course, are the tobacco restrictions and further tobacco restrictions mooted, and this is part of that whole program. These things have been talked about for probably 6-7 years now.
Yeah.
Eventually, the bill was tabled in Parliament, or it was published for comment in September 2016, and now we're on the next stage where it's before Cabinet before it is actually put to Parliament.
Okay, so it's getting closer and closer and closer, and it looks quite likely that it might go through and might go ahead, which in turn, let's look at the disadvantages before we talk advantages, but let's look at the disadvantage. I mean, what will the impact be on the economy?
Well, I think the main impact will be around the advertising issues. I think what you're going to find is that it'll be, if it becomes more difficult to advertise, companies will resort to more of the promotional events types of things, targeted entertainment, that type of thing. And studies that I've read have indicated that that's actually going to favour the larger players. Because that is big budget stuff.
Yeah, indeed.
And so the smaller players, which you have in the alcohol industry, your craft breweries and those sort of people, I think are going to be the ones who are going to be hardest hit by that.
Yeah, so that'll affect their businesses a lot. But I mean, do you really think it's going to make an impact to change the hours? I remember with the smoking ban, that kind of made an impact, but it was an all-out ban, basically. I mean, no advertising whatsoever.
Yeah.
But this, just putting a time restriction on advertising on smoking products, I mean, is that, on alcoholic products, do you think it will have the desired impact, you know, that's needed if we had to weigh it up with the detrimental effect on these businesses?
Well, when you talk about the desired effect, I mean, the policy behind it, there are two aspects to the policy, and one relates also to the change in the drinking age, of course, and that is to avoid promotion of alcohol to children. And the idea of restricting it to after 10 o'clock at night, presumably, is so that children are not exposed to it to the extent that they were.
Yeah.
Obviously, when it comes to adult drinking and adult alcohol abuse, it's not going to make that much of a difference, but it could well reduce the glamour effect of alcohol towards children.
Yeah. I can understand that. I mean, I remember the glamour effect that was there with smoking cigarettes. I mean, it was always, you know, you'd watch it and the lifestyles of the rich and famous and the camel man and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And that all went away. But did it have the desired effect? That's my question. I mean, just by taking the advertising away for this wonderful lifestyle of smoking, did it stop people buying cigarettes?
Well, if you go back to the issue of children, I mean, children want to do these things not so much because they're advertised, but because they are regarded as things that grown-ups do.
Okay.
So children will see grown-ups doing it, and they will be told it's not for you, it's for when you're bigger.
Yeah.
And then you can make your own decisions. And I think that is really what they're creates that aspirational effect almost as much as the rich and famous effect.
Yeah. The desire for that you cannot have.
Yeah.
But the reality is that more and more the youth are not even watching television. They're online, and that is a different space altogether, and that's something
Yes.
we'll need to talk about. But in reality, how difficult is it to actually go about amending the liquor bill?
Well, it's going to, I mean, it's no more difficult than obviously any other legislation. There's a process when any legislation is tabled. It is published for comment. There's a period longer or shorter for public comment. It then goes through the various, through Cabinet and the various parliamentary committees, and eventually comes before Parliament and is put to a vote.
Yeah. How far are we from the vote?
Well, that is expected sometime later this year.
So this is all happening this year now?
It's expected to happen.
Okay, and if the
this
vote
year.
goes ahead?
Well, if the vote goes ahead, then the next step will be various people have threatened constitutional challenges.
Okay.
So there may then still be a constitutional court process or court process culminating in the constitutional court before the law becomes law in whatever final form it takes.
Yeah, yeah. Quite a difficult one, however, when you think of, I already think of an 18-year-old who is now drinking, a 19-year-old, a 20-year-old who is drinking. Suddenly it becomes law now to say, no, you're not allowed to drink anymore. No, everything you had consumed when you turned 18, suddenly you have to stop drinking again, and you can only start up again when you turn 21. It almost doesn't make sense, does it? I mean, to enforce it onto them, that category is going to be a tough one. If someone hasn't already drunk before, maybe then it's a bit easier.
Yes, I think it will be, and I think there'll be a lot of resistance.
Yeah.
But I think the minister's program is probably well meant, whether it's easier to enforce or whether
Understood.
And the economic effects. In fact, whether the economic effects are as important to him as the social effects, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. It doesn't seem that way. He's very proactive,
Yes.
and he does push through on these things. So it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, so it's all happening this year, and we could see it come into effect and voted on this year, and then who knows from there. So that liquor age may move up to 21 here in South Africa, the legal drinking age, and that effect on the advertising industry, well, that's to be seen, and the amendments that will go ahead. Ian, thanks for chatting to us. Been a pleasure having you in studio. Ian Jacobsberg is from Hogan Lovells and talking to us about this implication of the liquor bill if it does get amended. Let's take a break. We'll cross one